Hi, and welcome to the Yes You May podcast, where we talk all things unfiltered confidence with real people sharing their real journeys in business and in life to help empower you and make you more successful so you can live a life without regrets. Today, I have a lovely guest, friend of mine, not just a guest, a friend, which is always nice to have a friend come on. Her name is Christy Renee, and she is a magnetic storyteller, which, quite frankly, is a fascinating title that I'm kind of jealous that I didn't come up with. Although I don't know if I'm that, but I still, would like to be. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Christy in. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it.
This has been long awaited. I'm happy to be here. You're whatever you're doing with the algorithm is working. Every platform, especially TikTok, is almost exclusively you. My TikTok loves you and your show. I'm like, what a perfect reminder. Yes, schedule, come on, have this conversation. So, after much ado, I'm happy to be here.
Well, good. I'm glad I didn't it's funny, you post stuff and you never know if it's doing anything. You know what I mean? Like, you think you're gonna know, but you just I don't know. I try to post and forget. That's one thing that I'm like, just I don't wanna think about it, and I do long form content so I can chop it down to short form content, schedule
Mhm.
it, and let it do its thing in the world and just help people
Great.
where people need to be. And that's the important part. But your magnetic storytelling, where
Mm.
did this title come from? Tell us a little bit about that. Let's just start right there because I think that's a fascinating thing to say.
Well, yes. So the idea for magnetic storytelling really was birthed or blossomed from my unique experience. And it started as a bit of a joke earlier in the reason that I am all about authentic branding is because I've been in this game for almost 10 years. I have started a lot of things that should have been successful. They had every right to be successful, but they weren't absolutely the most aligned and authentic expression of myself. And so, for different reasons, it didn't work. Maybe I was burnt out because I wasn't loving what I was doing all day, every day. And that's really, I've traveled 35 different countries, lived overseas for 5 years. I've accomplished a lot of goals in my life, and they all left me a little empty at the end. Like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And so I was brought into this idea around authentic expression and authentic brand building, and that when you really truly love what you do, we've heard it, you never work a day in your life. And as I was exploring, well, what really makes me me, and what are my natural gifts and abilities, and how can I translate that? Smoke has always followed me, whether I'm at a campfire, if I'm around somebody smoking a cigarette. They say smoke follows beauty. Yes, I've heard that before, and we joke. Some of my friends have said that, but it is so consistently just, it doesn't matter where you are. The wind, I can be on the river going down the kayak, somebody on the bank over there, it's in my face. And so I was already using the word magnetic in my, well, I'm just magnetic. Ha 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 ha.
Right, right.
And then it really grew as I started to go into networking events. I was in corporate advertising and I was affected by the economic changes. Director of copy and messaging was no longer seen as the valuable thing that it once was. And I was left, okay, now is my time. I can build this authentic brand. I know that I'm magnetic. I know that anywhere I go, I have the ability to really read the room and pull people in. So, magnetic storytelling is an energy and communication style that makes people lean in,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
allows you to earn somebody's attention. They trust you, they feel connected to you. And so, I always say maybe the tagline is be remembered, be referred. And magnetic storytelling helps you do that. So, you can grow and scale in a very quick way because you're shortcutting a lot of what we've been taught.
That's very cool. I think it's really important to bring people into that idea of magnetic storytelling rather than just storytelling, because I think storytelling has gotten a lot of buzz, but I don't know that people really do it well, per se,
Mm.
or understand its value. I think there's a lot of buzzwords out there and they sound great and they seem to be popular, but until you really understand what the value is and how it can help in your business and in your life, then it's hard to apply. So it's interesting that you say the smoke portion of it. it just kept following you around, which caused you to say magnetic. And I find it interesting that you said that caused something else, right? And I think a lot of times we don't see those connections about how one thing is causing another thing and where it's coming from and identifying that. How did you figure out this storytelling and the magnetism? I'm gonna say that. That's a
Yeah. It
yep.
is, it is. It is.
How did you figure that all out?
Well, I think I'd like to touch on s 2 parts of what you just said, and I think that the value in magnetic storytelling is that it's done in a very concise and short way. And so it yes, we talk about storytelling and branding often, but a story is typically thought of as a big, long thing. And you
Right,
don't always have the time to share a big, long thing because people, the goldfish statistic that we've all heard, our attention spans are shorter than a goldfish, that was 10 years ago. They're
right.
they're they're half as long as that right now. So you really have millimoments to capture attention, and so much of what is out there is ignored. So magnetic storytelling is this idea that you can tell bits and pieces, and they all one line leads to the next line. Whether you're speaking or writing, one line leads to the next, to the next, to the next. And so rather than this idea of bait and switch or having a hook, you have a pull, and it's
Mm,
much more powerful when you have a pull. And so for me, this is the reason, because I am adept in magnetic storytelling, as you may imagine. I have just 2 days ago, I had a voicemail. Christy, we met a month and a half ago, and I've been thinking about you every day since. I want to work with you. Can we have a conversation about that? We are halfway through the year, and every single client that I have this year has approached me in that manner. They want to work with me. They want more. And this is really the value of magnetic storytelling in action. Now, how did I start to notice that? How did I form those connections? Before we got on, we were talking a bit about the Extracting Genius retreat that was more than just nice marketing language. And in that, I really started to understand and be able to articulate that my superpower is in articulating the invisible, reading between the lines, seeing patterns where others may not see it, asking questions. And so I feel a lot of people may notice this detail oriented pattern recognition nature when it comes to numbers.
mm.
Numbers are not necessarily my strong suit. However, I see patterns in language. I see patterns in energy. I see patterns of behavior. I've studied behavioral psychology very extensively. And I think that this is what allows me to have kind of that high level objective awareness of, okay, let me separate myself. What's happening here? What are the patterns? And how can I articulate a brand or make something powerful out of that?
That's
For sure.
interesting. Yeah. I mean, first of all, studying psychology is always a fascinating
Mhm.
fascinating idea. Or what did you call not psychology specifically, but
Well, behavioral psychology, why humans do the things that they do, how even neuroscience plays a part into that. And with my experience in corporate advertising and messaging and writing, it's, persuasion. Why do people do the things that they do? How can you make them feel trust you, and then drive them to action to do something about that? Whether that's clicking a button, getting in touch for more information, calling you and saying, hey, I want to work together. The behavioral psychology behind all of that is not to be ignored.
that's fascinating. I feel like that has to be, like, just something you start to dive into, and it's so interesting, you just can't stop whether you want to or not. It's just like it keeps your attention so, intriguing.
It
Very
does,
cool.
yes, and I was fortunate enough to learn from some of the world's leading experts when I was overseas traveling. I traveled with Mind Valley for quite a while. I think we've talked about them a little bit, and just the leaders and authors and experts that would come in, and we would spend a month together in this transformative environment, learning from each other. It was just a very powerfully immersive way to learn. So yes, it was frustrating, but I also learned on multiple levels, right? I don't know, to nerd out here, neuroplasticity is when you learn something from multiple angles with your hand, cognitively, reading in a book, applying it in action. And so I really got that full experience, and I use that, those insights today.
You mentioned Mind Valley. One, tell the people what is Mind Valley. I know that I know Mind Valley, but I wanna make sure everybody who's
Mhm.
listening because it's quite a fascinating and a big almost a movement at this point, right?
It
There's
is, it
probably a
is.
great word for it. So tell me, what is Mind Valley and how did you get synced up with them?
Mind Valley is a personal and professional development platform. I think at this time they probably have about 20 or 25 million students worldwide.
Good geez.
They began as a meditation app and company out of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. The founder, Vishen Lakhiani, moved to New York, was or building this app, bringing it to the people, and they had a very slow start in that they were only known by a handful of people as this meditation app for a while. And in 2017, they did their first rotating campus in Barcelona. So the idea was 1 month every summer, they would hold Mind Valley University, where they would really teach everything that you did not learn in school: entrepreneurship and growth, spirituality, personal development. I mean, I'm sure you know, and any of the listeners who are on this wonderful entrepreneurship journey, it is the best personal development exercise that there ever was, and it never ends. There's always another iteration. And so I think Mind Valley does a really good job of addressing education from all angles that you would need to succeed. And 5 years ago, when I moved back, I saw not many people knew their name.
Yeah.
And now more times than not, I would say 9 out of 10 people that I speak to do know Mind Valley. So if you don't know them yet, you will. They are growing and they've moved away from their rotating campus model a little bit. The world changed in 2020. They have a ton of videos online, authors, courses, but if you do get the opportunity to do the immersive experience, it's unlike anything else.
It's definitely something that I've always been, interested in and wanting to go and do in person because it definite like, I've seen the stuff online, and I think online training is phenomenal. I mean, the accessibility alone makes any online training worth it. However, there is definitely something, especially with meditation and energy, about meeting in person and doing it. And I've always been intrigued and wanted to go that, or even Joe Dispenza and his work. I've always wanted to go check out one of those. Or what's her name? Esther Hicks. I don't think she's
Mhm.
touring though.
She was just
But
in Atlanta like
stop
6
it.
weeks
No.
ago. Yes.
Ah, dang it.
I guess
Did
they,
you go?
yes. No, but I some friends came in from Nashville and they went and we got dinner the night before and they just had an amazing experience.
I bet. Dang it. I'm so
Yeah.
jealous. I didn't even know.
Yes, but you mentioned energy, right? And that's a big part of my work too, and I know that I was able to learn about altered states and the level of which our brain can perform and how you can just enter into what's called flow state, where time is condensed. You know, Stephen Kotler's really the master of that. He wrote the book Stealing Fire, and I spent a lot of time taking excerpts from the book or his podcasts, and back before ChatGPT, I would be paid to distill them down into blog posts and into different content. So not only was I immersed into this, I was also learning at a level of the simplification. We're taking a very complex subject. I would have to understand it and digest it to the point that I could explain it very simply. And so in the work that I do today, we talk about there's two types of communication. You have basic or standard, which is over here, and it's everything, it's words. And you
Mhm.
can get very advanced in standard communication, how you deliver and how potent you are, how many filler words do you have, all of that.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, you have energy. And energy tells your story before you speak. So, whether you know it or not, you are communicating with energy. And how can you be more intentional in that? And so, that's really a big element of magnetic storytelling. It's not just the words that you use, but how you're making people feel based on the energy that you carry.
What's like I wanna say 1, but you can have more than 1 because honestly, I would never when somebody asks me to have 1 tip or trick, like, I'm like, "But, I have so many. What's the best
Mhm,
one?" I
mhm.
don't know. So whatever is feeling right. What's something that somebody can do to be more mindful or your top tip to, like, improve that and work on that for somebody that's very interested, intrigued, and wants to kinda dabble and start off and see how they can improve their magnetism?
Yes, I do have one tip. The top
You
tip.
do?
I
Yay!
do. I'm writing a book on it. It could go very long with all of the tips, but if I had to just choose one to increase your magnetism, to have stronger, better, cleaner energy, so that when people are around you, they feel what you're feeling and you're intentional about what they're feeling. Oh, the top tip is mirror work. Ooh,
Mirror
do you know what I mean when I
I
say mirror
don't
work?
have an idea what mirror work is, so you're mirroring what the other person is doing?
Oh, great. I'm glad that we asked. So,
Yes?
no.
Question mark?
So,
Oh,
mirroring in that sense has long been a charisma type of
yes.
tool.
Yep.
I'm not a big fan of that because I don't think that that's genuine connection. I think that that's forced.
Yes.
And when I say mirror work, what I mean is meeting yourself in the mirror. So, you actually get a mirror, a handheld mirror,
Go bigger.
and you look into your own eyes. And there's a couple different ways to do this, whether you're a very big beginner and this is the most confronting thing for you in the world. I am telling you, I traveled a lot. I would be in a lot of airports and public restrooms, and I would keep my eyes down
Mm,
when I would approach the counter to wash my hands because looking at myself in the eyes or looking at myself in general was too confronting,
okay.
which says a lot about the growth and journey that I had been on. And I
Yeah.
could talk more about that, but not to derail. The experience with sitting down with a mirror and another Mind Valley author, Lisa Nichols, she really introduced this concept to me and millions of others, where you prepare, let's say, a couple little journal entries.
Mhm.
I I'm forgetting the exact order right now. I believe it's I forgive myself for, I'm proud of myself that, and
Okay.
I commit to myself. And so for anybody who's coming out of a season, a new season coming into that, maybe you're shedding a toxic relationship, maybe you're stepping into a new job. I mean, we are going through so much disruption right now. It's very easy for us to lose our sense of identity based on where we've placed it. And I think that at its core, I didn't know myself. I wasn't being incredibly honest with myself. And so being confronted with myself in the mirror was very difficult. And many people, if you go to transformational type of weekends, mirror work will be involved in some way. Maybe you just sit in silence, staring at yourself for 5 or 10 minutes. The amount of tears that come from everybody in the room is profound. If you do this exercise, you will start to be moved in a way where you've met yourself more authentically. You've met yourself at a level where you're holding yourself in integrity, and so when you go out into the world, the hardest person's eyes to meet are our own. So when you go out, eye contact becomes far easier. And one of the things that I'm often complimented on or people note that is different from others is my intense eye contact. And the people in my life now love it. They feel seen by it. But when I was running in different circles who people were also uncomfortable meeting their own eyes, they would get a little uncomfortable, a little shaken up, like, ooh, she sees something in me, and I'm not all the way sure what that is. So it's a power move to do this mirror work, looking into your own eyes in this way, but it's an internal power move. You create power within yourself, and then that radiates out and it increases magnetism. Top tip, top tip. It's hard and it's confronting for many, but I'm sure you'll include my contact information. If
Yes.
anybody's like, "This is fascinating, this is confusing, I don't know, Christy," reach out to me and I'll walk you through it. It is the best thing I believe humans can do for themselves.
Just fascinating. Why is that something that is gonna increase the magnetism? And you kinda touched on it, but just if you wanna go a little bit more into, like, why is that so powerful to reflect on your own self to then connect with other people? Because that does seem on surface level disconnected, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
I can see
Mhm.
a lot of people being like, What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, thank
What
you.
does inner work have to do with me?"
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to break it down. Yes, so we can only meet others as deeply as we've met ourselves. Point
Mm,
blank. Point blank. So if you know yourself at a very surface level, going out into the world, you're only going to connect with people on a surface level. The deeper you meet yourself, The more powerfully you stand in your own authenticity, the more people will be drawn to you because we're living in a world where it is so easy to be somebody else. You go into AI, you say, give me a business plan, give me an ideal client profile. It will spit out more ideas than any one person could ever execute.
Yes.
Is that going to be successful for them?
Probably not.
Can't everybody just do that?
Yeah, but
So
like,
today, in order to be the expert that really leads transformation, you need the personal story, you need the background, the expertise, you need it to be real, you need it to be rooted in you. And so going out into the world, it's the same way. Authenticity is valued, and there's actually statistics that show this, whether we're talking about event planners and their audiences, or we're talking about buyers in the workplace. I know you do a lot of work with generational
mhm.
um, conversations, right? There's never been 4 generations in the workplace before, and now we're dealing with that. So I'm sure that you know the studies show that Gen Z actually values authenticity and personal connection above all else. You would think, oh my gosh, AI, we're losing our humanity. No, no. Our humanity is valued more than it ever is. And so stepping into a room shining as your authentic self, that pulls people in. That's magnetic. Okay, how do you do that, Christy? Well,
Right.
it starts by getting in touch with yourself. And so the mirror work is one example. I also have a long history. I dealt with severe gut issues in my 20s that affected every part of my life. I was losing my hair. I couldn't
Yes.
eat hardly anything. And what that experience taught me was that our gut instinct, our gut intuition, those are all housed in our gut. Our sense of identity is in our gut. Courage, guts, it's all synonymous. So if we take mirror work as just kind of the top entry level tip, it goes much deeper than that and how you can get into communication with yourself and your own voice because connection starts there.
Interesting. Very interesting. It's interesting how you connected gut with courage and everything else. I mean, we say gut intuition or trust your gut, but we
Mhm.
don't actually, or at least I don't. I shouldn't say we. I always
Mhm.
generalize, but I feel like I'm probably relatively accurate on this one, is that we don't actually associate our actual gut with that and that its health can be affecting the rest of our body. Although I have dove more into. All right, nobody said I was the perfect grammar person. I have dove more into that because of my own gut issues, but it turned out it was just I couldn't have dairy anymore, which was so sad.
Mm.
Let me tell you what,
Yeah.
when you figure out you can't have
Hmm.
dairy, it's everywhere and it's depressing. It's literally depressing when you can't have dairy. And it literally depresses. That was one of my symptoms. I was like depressed. I was like, I don't understand why I'm
Yeah.
unhappy. Oh,
Oh
because
my
dairy
gosh.
is messing with you. Oh,
Well, it goes a bit deeper than that. So 95% of serotonin, which is our happy neurochemical, is produced in our gut. So if your gut is not functioning optimally, you're not going to be producing the serotonin that makes you happy, and therefore you will be sad. And now, Amanda, would you believe
what?
I was so at that time when I was having gut issues in my 20s, this is what made me go travel the world because I was like, if I can overcome this, I can do anything. I was gluten free, dairy
Uh,
free, vegetarian, vegan. I tried absolutely everything. They told me I couldn't have it. And this is when I started to learn that food isn't food anymore. Food is
yeah,
food like. And that often the
in America.
allergies that you have in America, the allergies that you have are not from the food themselves, like dairy, it's from the additives or the
Yeah.
chemicals or the fillers. And so once I never thought I would have dairy ever again in my life or bread, it was very sad. And I came back from all of that independently of healthcare. That is a big portion of what the book is about because energy management, how do you communicate with your energy? Well, it starts inside your body and the gut is, referred to as our second brain. And I'm not surprised. Like you felt depressed at what was being cut off, but you also felt depressed because your body wasn't working for you.
Well, I literally would feel like I would eat dairy, not know it was dairy that was the issue because
Mhm.
I had no idea and the doctors couldn't give me any answers. literally, I did not get answers from
Yeah.
doctors, right?
Mhm.
And nobody food sensitivity tested me. That I did on my own. That's how
Yeah.
I literally found that out because I sent off one of those, like, mail-in blood
Mhm.
tests, and it was like, dairy, 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 dairy is your issue. Cut out dairy, and I was better." But I would literally eat I was so frustrated. I would eat a piece of bread and butter, and then the next day be sick still, and I was like I was literally felt depressed and was sick. Like, my
Mm.
mood, like,
Mhm.
so down after eating dairy, which has gotten better, and I use dairy pills
Good,
now, but I have
good.
been fascinated by that correlation, and a lot of times I talk about, health and I talk about, I work out all the time, and I don't think people in the past saw the connection between your confidence, between
Mhm.
the way you present in the world, your energy, and the food that you're consuming and the exercise that you're doing. But I'm a big believer that if you don't use your body, you're gonna lose your body. Like, we
Yep.
did not like, whatever you wanna believe about creation, every young, but we're not meant to just sit in front of a computer 8 hours a day. Like, we're not meant to
No.
sit down on our butts for this long like we do now. Like,
No.
that was never the intention, and so I firmly believe you have to use your body. I mean, like, people
Yes.
know you gotta exercise a dog. Like, they know, even though most people don't actually exercise
Mhm.
dogs, that's a whole 'nother story, but we don't think about that for ourselves. And there's such a connection between feeling good about yourself and what you put in your body and what you do with your body all in conjunction. And so it's
Yes. Yes, and, you make a really good point. So when we sit down and so much, just let's talk about this. Let's dive in. It's so important. And,
let's do
your theme is confidence.
it is.
And in my past, I always spoke about courage because it took so much to I had the biggest fear of being seen and heard. To look at me now, people would never think that public speaking terrified me to the point that I could not hold a microphone in my hand, say, my name is Kirsty, and the answer to your like I could not do it. I couldn't speak up at a dinner table. And it all came down to courage for me. And it was because my gut was disconnected. Believe it or not, we do have a courage muscle. It's the transverse abdominis. Its job is to wrap the spine. And when that is strong, you can hold on to yourself. You feel stronger from the inside out. You feel more confident from the inside out. And you hit on the fact that when we sit for 8 hours a day, that muscle completely just almost dissolves. And so, if we want to have more confidence, we have to strengthen the part of us that modern living weakens. And so it's my approach to connection with others and how it starts within yourself. It's very scientific. I think that we talk a lot about confidence and woo woo and you showed me your earrings, their telescope with stars and yes, but so much of my work is grounded in the scientific reasons, the physiology behind what makes us feel and think and behave in the way that we do. And
Fascinating.
I just love this conversation. It is so, and if anybody listening, just the takeaway, if it's too much science, too much nerding out for you, the takeaway is that you have more power than you think you do. And you can follow certain steps to build the confidence, to build the courage, to take action on the life that you dream of.
I always say that confidence is more of a muscle than it is something that you just have or
Yes,
don't have. And it's something
100%.
prove, it's also something you can lose, and it's not going to be the same across every aspect of your life. I have a business coach. Well, Mark Brown, one of my
Oh,
friends, our
yes.
friend coaches, yeah.
Mhm.
He said to me one time, he's like, "Amanda, it doesn't make sense that you lack confidence." He was like, "Nobody sees that. People look at you and see this confident person who's out there." Da, da, da." I'm like, I know how to portray that. That
You
doesn't
do.
mean I feel that internally in every situation. And so I think it's interesting to hear from a variety of people, which is probably why I do this show. Da, da,
Yeah.
da, da. There you go. Um, and how they build their confidence and how they I like to say, give themselves permission. So how do you say yes to yourself? How did you, allow yourself or tell yourself you can do something that was difficult or hard or bet on yourself? Like, it's just fascinating here, so many different stories. And then to realize we're all we're all still just human, and, like, all your
Mhm. Mhm.
insecurities,
Uh-huh.
self-doubt, um, the questioning, the back and forth, like, "Is this the right choice? Should I do this? Da, da, da." Like, all of that internal nonsense going on in our heads,
Mhm, mhm.
um, it happens to all of us, no matter how confident you see some, and I'm sure there's some narcissists out there that that's not the case, but overall, everybody I talk to is like, "Yeah, no, it takes work." And I wasn't so sure at the beginning, but I've become more confident, or I just had to do it for whatever reason. You said you traveled the world because you feel like you could do anything. Um, when was it like, "Okay, I've seen enough and I wanna come back home?" What made you stop traveling and come back?
Oh, man, I did not wanna listen. I had an intuitive nudge at the end of 5 long years, 35 countries. I got this voice, "Go home to Marietta," and I was like, first off, if I'm ever going back to the States, I'm going back to Florida. I have not lived in Marietta for 15 years. I'm not going back to Marietta. You mean Florida, right? And I don't even want to go to the States. Why are we even having this conversation? Go home to Marietta. It's like, no. So I traveled a little bit more. I didn't listen. And it just became very clear that the community and connection that I was craving wasn't going to be found out there anywhere. And so, and really it's the perfect hero's journey or heroine's journey, I traveled to the ends of the earth to find myself, and inside of me was home the whole time, but I really started to crave people to have these experiences with, the fast friends, the fast travel buddies. It didn't mean as much as people who have been with you through different times of life. And I had gone through a big life change. I was in a relationship for 14 years that
Wow.
ended while I was overseas. And I think that there was half the trip we were together, half the trip I was learning to find myself for the first time, and I truly believe that I needed to come home to my hometown to put down roots, to connect to the part of me that I had been in so many ways running from
Yep,
for a long time.
yep, yep. Were they traveling with you during that time period, or
Who the
your partner at the time?
Oh, well, yes, yes. So, yes, we started the trip together. And then actually at Mind Valley, we're like, "Oh my gosh, there's a whole world of people like us. We don't need to be together anymore. Like, high five, see you never." And um, yeah, and then it was just a lot of travel friends, and I'm still in contact with some of them to this day. Amazing friendships were made, but by large and far, I was craving um, a real
Okay.
community that knew me from when I was young, kind of this coming back home to myself. And of course, now the work that I do is I help entrepreneurs articulate their unique essence and going back into a brand that pays them to be themselves. And I would not have been able to do this work if I did not have the deep identity work that I went through. And it was deep.
It was a lot, okay,
It
listen.
was a lot. Whatever your mess of stuff is, come on, I got it, because it's not messier than where I started. I got you.
Oh, that's so funny. You said Florida too. I lived in Florida for a while. What part of Florida were you in?
I was in Jacksonville.
Oh, I haven't spent much time there. I was in Tampa Bay overall, and Ocala and Inverness and some other,
Mm.
yeah. I was around, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I
Jacksonville's
actually
underrated. It was great. It was a great place to spend my 20s.
started having cruise ships go out of Jacksonville, and I'm enjoying
Oh,
it,
oh,
right? But
ooh.
that's what that's
I wish they wouldn't. You're ruining it. Stop it.
I mean, it's
Nobody's supposed
only
to know about this. Jacksonville's not cool. Nope, don't go there.
never be.
It's not very touristy, and that's such a big part of its charm,
Yeah,
but
I'm sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's, a little bit more north, so you got almost seasons, not quite.
Yeah, and the beach, I mean, that was the worst part about it. I never went in that water. There was so many bull sharks and just like dark murkiness. Like, no, thank you. So if you're looking for the, white sand, crystal clear waters, Jacksonville doesn't really have that, but it has great local seafood, great food and beverage, restaurant industry type of scene, and that's what I did in my 20s, and so anytime I go down there, there's actually I have a text message thread right now, I can't make it. It's next weekend, a, reunion for all of
Oh,
us that work together, just at a really defining moment, in the city's time and then most of our lives too, so just,
that's cool.
warm and fuzzies.
But now you're back in Georgia,
I
and so
am.
that's where we met. Ta-da!
Yep.
Which apparently involves sound effects. Um, that's just the way I roll. Let's see, where are we at? Let's talk about your work now, because I feel like we've kinda touched on it, but we haven't really delved into how you specifically help an entrepreneur. It sounds like you
Mm.
really work more with the entrepreneur more than the big brands, or do you do both?
No, I do both. I do
Help?
both. Yeah, I
Yeah.
help brands of all sizes find their voice and tell their story to grow their loyal client base. And so
Okay.
organizations organizations typically have the challenge with the demands to be omnipresent, omni-channel. You need to have a presence across all types of different digital platforms, in-store platforms, depending on who you are and what you do. So I've worked with CPG, consumer packaged goods. I've worked with the transportation and freight industry. Claire's, the
Yeah.
retailer, the nostalgic retailer, they were on the brink of bankruptcy and they came to our team. There was a lot that was involved, but I was the head of communications and messaging at the time and helped them develop a new voice that would
That's
connect with the next gen. And so by unifying that voice through e-commerce all the way to the in-store experience, that unity, that development of voice, that choice of language, there've been amazing articles showcasing their success. And I was very happy to lead that project. So yes, I talk about working with entrepreneurs because I truly that's where so much fulfillment comes from me and somebody saying, I feel like I have this calling for more. I know I'm meant to have a book, a TEDx one day, but I don't know what's the golden thread or how do I weave it all together? Or like you said, what's the big mess and how do I articulate that and make sense of that? So I get a lot of fulfillment from that. But most of my expertise has actually been built working with large scale organizations. Maybe they've gone through a merger or acquisition and you've got one umbrella brand that now suddenly has seven sub brands. Most people don't think, hey, we need to develop a communication style because otherwise this is going to sound like Christy the copywriter or Martha in marketing. How do we get something that sounds like us and is consistent? And at the core of it, that's what I help brands do.
That is very important and very cool and very difficult to do for yourself. That's what I've learned. Like trying to figure out your own stuff is the hardest. Like I can watch other people and be like, "Oh, you do this," or "You do that," or like I can help with that to a certain degree, right? But my own self, please, please. It is so freaking hard to
Yes.
identify. And I think, here, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what makes it hard is because we second guess what comes natural to us and what is just second nature. So we don't see the value that we're bringing to the table because it's easy, or doesn't everybody know this, right?
Hmm.
So I think it's hard for us to identify our own things because we don't see what is valuable to others within ourselves.
Oh, you are so spot on. I talk about this all the time. We have a blind spot, and that's the truest indicator that you're working from your particular unique zone of genius is that you do not recognize the value it has in the marketplace because can't everybody do this? I just
Right.
open my mouth and this is how it comes out. Oh, and it's an iterative process too. I mean, it started with that with storytelling for me, and it just gets more and more distilled of, oh, my superpower, my genius is asking the questions nobody thinks about. It's in articulating the high level, yes, okay, but how? So much of my knowledge of how to find your voice, how to be more confident, how to just let go, how to just be, I became very obsessed with finding those answers and being able to walk anybody else through that. And the same goes for developing our authentic brand because wait, what? I have one of my clients, I'm so proud of her. Her natural gift is in being so future thinking that she's able to be confident decision making through disruption. She just has reactionary thinking put on the spot. What are you going to do? How do you make the best decision? I know a lot of people, maybe myself included, is like, I don't know, analysis paralysis, too much. And
Right,
she's
right.
like, "This is the way forward," and she knows what to bet her chips on that will give
So
her the most return later. And so the process of uncovering that for her, I love, her and everybody else's face of like, That's valuable? What? Yes. Yes, it most certainly is. Let me help you develop a market plan and go share your gifts with the world because, see, that's you can feel it, right? You can feel
right.
it. It's such rewarding work. I love it.
I mean, that's a fascinating gift in of itself, right? And
Right?
I could see how she's like, "Doesn't everybody do this?" No, none of us
No.
do this. We need
No.
but
Yes.
then also, once you identify it, then it's also figuring out how to communicate it to other people effectively and efficiently, and then how can I turn this into a business? How can I
Mhm.
what do I do with this then going forward? And that's so important, but to your point, once you figure it out, once it clicks, then, like, it's like a sense of relief.
Mhm.
When I started my, video production company, right? I specifically make training videos for retail corporations. It's a very and generally within the asset protection department. Very specific thing. But I remember before I started it, I was, like, helping somebody on camera. We talked about this before we started, and I just had this sense of like, "Oh, I like helping this. I like seeing their breakthrough and seeing them be like, "Oh, okay, I feel better on camera now." And when I started the video production company, I just had this, like, major sense of relief of, "Oh, this feels right. Like,
Mhm.
I know I'm supposed to do this." And it was like this wave of just clarity and relief
Mhm.
and, like, oh my gosh, so many emotions of like, "Oh, finally," versus
Mm.
when you're bouncing around, like, doing all sorts of things, which I think, especially through your 20s, is super important to do. But I think it's a lifelong journey. I think all of our experiences, no matter how disconnected they seem at the time, add up to something further down the road. And it's just like, oh. So the fact that you get to help people come to I don't have a word for this. Is there a word for this that I need? Probably.
Let me know when you find it. The
I think
relief, the you know, it one of our shared friends,
Mhm,
Siobhan Reed,
mhm.
she was one of the first people that I really knew closely that I was working with and watching develop this because she would be sending emails at 3 AM and back up at 7, and I'm like, "You are crazy. Please stop overworking yourself." And while I still believe that, her response, she was like, "But I love what I do. I
Oh,
love this." I was like, "Ooh, I am super not there. Okay." And it kind of
right.
reinforced I first saw this idea, traveling with Mind Valley, thought leaders, all of that, but Siobhan was one of the first people I saw it in action of I'm working myself this often and I'm truly joyous and it's feeding me more energy. I was like, "Ooh, goals." And happy to say minus like one area I'm still doing, we call it angel investing, right? It's not the perfectly aligned. We're doing the work and getting paid. But outside of that, the work that I'm doing is all feeding me energy in that way. And so, yeah, I want everybody to feel that.
I think that's amazing. That's like the ultimate goal, right? Maybe not 3 AM to 7
Mhm.
AM. That might
Yes.
maybe that's might not be, but to feel like you're in your zone of genius and you're contributing to society in a meaningful way that allows you to also get paid. But I think really,
Mhm.
aside from the money portion specifically, I think the money always follows, but to be able to feel fulfilled in what you're
Mhm.
doing as a benefit to others, I think that's like the ultimate
It
thing.
is.
And
Yes.
once you figure
Yes.
that and
Yes.
I feel
Yes.
like I'm still working on that. I'm like, I feel like I'm close.
Yes.
I
Yes.
hope I hope this is helping somebody. I don't know. Maybe
Yes.
it's just me rambling, but, um, I think that's really what we're all striving for, and when you do figure that out, I mean, gosh, don't you have a confidence boost in that? Aren't you always confident when,
Mm.
like, you're doing something and you know you're doing it well because 'cause you've done it so much that you're just like, "Yeah, I got this."
Yeah. And that goes back to the magnetic energy, the magnetic storytelling, right? I always use the example think about going into a job interview. If you're sitting in front of the person, the hiring manager, and in your head, you're like, I'm not worthy of this. I don't have the experience. I'm not the person. But the words coming out of your mouth are, you should hire me. if you're not convinced, you're never going to convince the person on the other side of the table. That's true in job interviews, that's true in sales, that's true in any conversation that you have. So much of this idea of inspiring trust and connection comes from you feeling confident in yourself. And when you show up, yes, my unique gifts have value in the world in this way. Like you said, what better a confidence boost is that?
As a former recruiter, a former very successful recruiter,
I
not to
bet
do
you
my own
were.
harm, but
I
was the best. That's at Verizon Wireless Cellular Sales. I can say after hundreds of interviews with people, it is so true. I would hire people, and like I said, I hired a lot of people. I would hire people not always and mostly not because of their experience within the industry, but their attitude, their energy, their willingness. There obviously some aptitude, right? But it was sales, right? So if you didn't have a certain
Mhm,
presence about you and ability to communicate clearly, you weren't gonna make it in the face-to-face sales.
mhm,
Like, you just weren't. You have to have that right energy and personality, and it's not one specific thing, right? Like, I think that's where some people go wrong in thinking there's certain things or there's one type of person that I'm supposed to emulate or be like, and that's not necessarily the case at all, right? There's a variety of people and
mhm.
personalities that are gonna be successful, but it's the energy in which you bring and the excitement that you bring with it. In sales, it's very simple, right? If you are super knowledgeable about your product, super excited about your product, and looking to solve other people's problems and find the best solution for them, you will sell like gangbusters.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Well,
It's
I
just not
love
that.
hearing your perspective from a recruiter to be able to, put case in point there. And I'm very happy. I know we spoke a little bit about how much work I'm doing in my local community, in our local community. And on
Right?
August 22nd, I will be the opening keynoter for the Super Women's Conference with the
Ooh,
Kennesaw Business Association. I'm very excited about that. And when I had the sales conversation with them of, well, what is your audience really looking to change, right? They said that they wanted to change their importance, their status, and understand and feel inspired to take more control of their own lives. And I think that that conversation coming back to confidence and the energy in which you bring, it's you don't need to be more or do more. You need to leverage what you already have and who you are and do so with that confidence. And just like you said, it isn't the person with the most experience. It's the person with the best energy, the best open willingness to learn, and I think that that's such a big part of it. And so if those are the criteria of getting ahead, well, we can all do that. We're not
yeah.
limited by what we've done. We're empowered by how we show up. I love hearing you just support that.
Well, I think it's so big, and I think one of the things that often goes underappreciated might be the right phrase, is like you don't have to have the answer to every question either. You have to be willing to figure that out
Yeah.
and acknowledge that you don't have it. I tell people in sales, like, you don't have to know everything. You really don't. You need to be an expert. But if you don't, there's going to be that person that asks something, you're like, I have no idea. Don't
Mhm.
lie about it because people can see through that. But if you're honest with somebody, like, you know what, actually, I really don't know that, but I'll find out for you and you get back to them. And you do, you follow through with that, then you are even more likable and even more um, interesting to work with because you're still human.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, yes, AI is here and it is absolutely changing the way we do things, but what I think it's doing is putting a spotlight on the fact that we want that human interaction
Mhm.
more than ever because we've gone away from it so much.
Mhm.
Now we're hitting a pinnacle of going away from it even more, and people are like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." I mean, social media isn't real, like, I really want that in person and with COVID, right, like, taking it
Mhm.
away, like, I think people are craving that in-person communication, that in-person, interaction, and working with real humans that are not
Yes.
perfect, and that's okay. So it's okay to not be perfect.
It
I'm excited
is.
for Women's Day, August 22nd. I think I'm around. I might have to come to that.
Yes, yes. It's all for women in business, so diverse range, directors to entrepreneurs, business owners to side hustles like Mary Kay, very diverse about 200, 250 people. It's going to be a great crowd. And, I'm just very excited to help bring this message out more of how to leverage what you've already done, increase your importance, increase your status, however you want to put that. But at the end, for me, it's about feeling that fulfillment at the end of the day.
That feels like you just put a whole button on the entire episode. Button, done. Do you have
Yep.
anything further you wanna share with us? I really do appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna put your website up, but any last words of wisdom, although I feel like you totally just did a lot of
I
great
think
last words.
yeah, I think we just had that nice little bow on the end. Yes, that is part of the magnetic storytelling process and gifts of being able to have a beginning, a middle, and a conclusion in everything that you do. And so thank you for noticing.
Absolutely, of course, it's what I do. Your website, ChristyRenee.com. Any other places? Where do you like to hang out? On your socials? How can they find you if they wanna know more? Obviously, it will be linked, but we wanna say it nonetheless.
Yeah,
Where can we find
absolutely. Find me on LinkedIn, Christy Renee Steely. You can find me on Instagram as well. There is a link that I would like you to follow in the show notes that Amanda's going to put up. It is for my free webinar series that happens on the first Monday of every month. July 7th is coming up soon. And we're going to be talking about the deep dive into the messaging transformations and how to communicate with your energy in this advanced way that we mentioned. So it is for me to build community, to practice getting more simplified, right? You said earlier, like, well, that doesn't seem connected. Can you share with that a little bit? So, really getting into your minds of what's not making sense. And the benefit for you is you get all the free information while you're helping me learn how to communicate it in a way that lands even more.
what's the specific one?
Yeah, well, it's webinar.christyrenee.com.
Oh,
So, not too long,
okay.
slightly long, but that's why I was like, the link will be there below.
Yes, I will absolutely. I was like, "But what is it?" Inquiring minds want to know. Web
Yeah, let me
I
double
was gonna
check
say, I
now.
don't know if I can even s type webinar,
Yeah,
WEBINAR.
but then yeah, see, it's long here.
Okay, well, we'll
I'm
put it
gonna
in the
share it with you. I'm gonna share it with you, yeah.
it'll be in the notes,
It's a
guys.
subdomain, and I will say I tech has held me back for a while, but I do everything myself because I do have the knowledge of building websites and email funnels and directing TV campaigns, all of it. It's very hard for me to hire somebody else to do it the way that I want it. I'm trying to get better about that, but yes, I built it all myself. I built the automation, the funnel, the website, the landing page. And
Wonderful.
yes, and maybe somebody could have gotten me a shorter domain, but I did it and I did not break my site in doing it. And that was
Done
the
is
important
better
thing.
than
You
perfect.
know? Moving
Done.
forward, exactly. Exactly.
And I am a perfectionist, okay? So, like, I totally
Yes.
get that, and I try to do everything myself because I was raised to think I can, and so
Yes.
therefore I do, and I also need to let go of some of that and let other people help. But, you
Yep.
know, process. It's a everybody
Exactly.
process, and you know
And
what?
you
You're doing great.
and I guess I do have one tidbit to share, and it's on that. Yes, I learned after I did it, after I was up until 3 AM making it perfect. See, the 3 AM thing. I was like, "But this is fun. I love what I'm
I
doing."
love
It looked
that.
amazing on desktop, but it did not look amazing on mobile, which I learned 3 days later. So everybody watching this will probably go to mobile. Bear with me. Done is better than perfect. I'm doing this myself. The important part is that the message that you're going to learn, the trainings that you're going to learn, that's the value. And if you have that to share, don't let your perfectionism or that embarrassment of don't look at it, it's not perfect. You're not going to like it. You're going to judge me. Just get out there and do it. Before this built in behind me, this bookcase was built, I was going on camera. I was going on camera with it unpainted and unfinished, and it killed me. It was horrible. I was like, this is the worst thing. Nobody should ever do this. I tried to, get different parts of the room, but it ended up just being this perfect metaphor for growth. And building business in this way is a construction zone. And if you wait until it's perfect and if you don't want to show up when it is in construction, you're not going to grow very fast. So
Right.
remember, the failures are helping you fail forward, and they're actually the rungs on the ladder of success.
Like that you had a little ladder there.
Oh, yeah. We're going, we're climbing.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Christy. I really appreciate it. I love that you also are a triple name situation like
Oh,
Amanda Mae Gray, you know? There's there's a handful of us out there, although I'm not from the South. My parents just named me after my grandmother, and, yeah, it happens to sound Southern, so
it
there you
does.
go, and rhyme. I mean, people love it. I don't know.
Yes.
I appreciate you coming on. If this was valuable to you, the listener, the watcher, please let us know in the comments what you like, what you will find interesting, what's your biggest takeaway, and share it with somebody that you think could benefit from it as well. Of course, like, subscribe, just, interact with me. Let me know somebody's watching, guys. Please, thanks, Kay. I would love it. And I appreciate you coming on, Christy. Hope you had a great time with us today. And we will see you on the next Yes You May with Amanda May Gray. Thanks.
Thank you.